starting to warm to Romney.
Okay, did you like the debate last night? What did you think?
I actually preferred the debate last week in terms of viewing pleasure because I loved all the Republicans in last week's debate. I thought they all looked great.
I thought everybody came off good last night.
I think the weeding process started. I think Perry was harmed significantly by the exposure of his illegal immigration policies. That is neither popular with Americans nor certainly with Republican primary voters. It's funny how the Republican elites always seem to want to avoid the issues that are very popular with Americans, like being against gay marriage and being against amnesty for illegals, as we have seen time and again. Those are wildly popular with Americans, much more popular than the Republican Party is, and yet often the elites are afraid of them. Well, Rick Perry is very, very bad on the illegal immigration issue, and I think that came through loud and clear last night, particularly his throwing in the sort of liberal phraseology about how he didn't want to discriminate against people who have last names that sound different.
Let me ask what you think. What did you think of the Social Security exchange? Let me play it for you. It's a little long, but I think it's worth playing again, and that's between Mitt Romney and Rick Perry over Ponzi scheme.
The term Ponzi scheme, I think, is over the top and unnecessary and frightful to many people. But the real issue is that in writing his book, Governor Perry pointed out that in his view, that Social Security is unconstitutional, that this is not something the federal government ought to be involved in, that instead it should be given back to the states. But the real question is, does Governor Perry continue to believe that Social Security should not be a federal program, that it's unconstitutional, and it should be returned to the states, or is he going to retreat from that view?
For people to stand up and support what they did in the 30s or what they're doing in the 2010s is not appropriate for America.
But the question is, do you still believe that Social Security should be ended as a federal program, as you did 6 months ago when your book came out, and returned to the states? Or do you want to retreat from that?
I think we ought to have a conversation.
We're having that right now, Governor.
Yes, sir.
We're running for president.
I'll finish this conversation. I think those types of thoughtful conversations with America, rather than trying to scare seniors like you're doing and other people, it's time to have a legitimate conversation in this country about how to fix that program where it's not bankrupt and our children actually know that there's going to be a retirement program there for them.
Governor, the term Ponzi scheme is what scared seniors, number one. And number two, suggesting that Social Security should no longer be a federal program and return to the states and unconstitutional is likewise frightening. We're funding it to make sure.
Criminal. You said if people did it in the private sector, it would be called criminal. That's in your book.
Yeah, what I said was... Governor Perry, you got to quote me correctly. You said it's criminal. What I said was Congress taking money out of the Social Security Trust Fund is like criminal, and that is, and it's wrong.
What did you think of that?
I think you, like most people with TV and radio shows, want to keep this race going on and on.
No. This is
the inevitable nominee is going to be Romney.
All right, forget. No. That is not true.
Perry's best moment and Romney's worst moment, though it's not just Romney. I mean, we're living this upside-down world. I've linked to, on my webpage today, Chris Matthews called Social Security a bad Ponzi scheme. Tim Russert agreed with him. John Alterman.
I've called it a Ponzi scheme. What are you talking? So, I mean, I agree that it is a Ponzi scheme.
Frankly, I think Perry could have said that a little more clearly. It is the textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme. It may be a Ponzi scheme we like, and we have made these promises, and as politicians, we're going to figure out some way out of this, but it is a Ponzi scheme, and we're living in this Orwellian world where everyone who seeks elective office has to go on stage and claim that the sun does not rise in the east, and no, it rises in the west and it sets in the east. Well, no, that isn't true, and Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. So I think it's a little silly. On the other hand, all Romney was objecting to was using the phrase Ponzi scheme.
All right, but does this in the end matter? The argument by people like, say, Karl Rove and Dick Morris is that it would be in Perry's best interest is to retreat from that word and explain he wants to, as you say, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and go along with the status quo line, which is we got to save Social Security from bankruptcy and say it that way. Do you think that is that good advice or bad advice?
I don't. But being honest on Social Security, I think what he's doing is pretty good. I think he could say it. He can say it better. For example, by quoting. The mainstream media's Pope, Tim Russert, on this. The description of Social Security as a Ponzi scheme originally came from the Nobel laureate, the Newsweek economist, what's his name, Robert Samuelson.
Yep.
And it is. This is what a Ponzi scheme is. Current recipients get money paid in by current payors. That's what it is. You may like this Ponzi scheme. I don't think this is going to be enough to carry Perry to the nomination, though. I thought other than disputing whether it was, except Romney really did not dispute whether it was a Ponzi scheme. He said we shouldn't use that phrase. Okay, big deal. Everybody knows it has to be dealt with.
Well, you're basically taking my position is I don't think there's really as big a difference as the media is making over this, except for the term Ponzi scheme. I've been saying that for days now.
Right.
All right, well, let me play another exchange.
There is a huge difference on illegal immigration.
Let me play the exchange with Bachmann and Perry over the HPV vaccine, which she called a violation of liberty. And then she also called out Perry for having his chief of staff be a lobbyist for the drug company. And cut 20, Jason, go ahead.
We cannot forget that in the midst of this executive order, there was a big drug company that made millions of dollars because of this mandate. We can't deny that.
What are you suggesting?
What I'm saying is that it's wrong for a drug company because the governor's former chief of staff was the chief lobbyist for this drug company. The drug company gave thousands of dollars in political donations to the governor, and this is just flat out wrong. Right. The question is it about life or was it about millions of dollars and potentially billions for a drug company?
All right, I'll let Senator Santorum hold off for a second. You got to respond to that.
Yes, sir. The company was Merck, and it was a $5,000 contribution that I had received from them. I raised about $30 million. And if you're saying that I can be bought for $5,000, I'm offended.
I'm offended for all the little girls and the parents that didn't have a choice. That's what I'm offended for.
Well, it got pretty heated, but I'm with Bachmann on the issue, and Perry himself even said it was a mistake, and he apologized for it.
Well, this is why debates are good. I mean, I think both of them made mistakes in that exchange. First of all, any Republican ever using the words in combination, I'm offended, no, we've got to eject them. And as for what Bachmann said, I agree with her on the issue, but she made the fatal debater's mistake of throwing in too many arguments against the vaccine, allowing Perry to counter only the worst example. I mean, that's an MSNBC point. Who's paying you when you were bought by the pharmaceutical company? He very easily parried that by saying it was $5,000 they gave me. I raised more than $30 million. I think the point is, well, A, it was a bad idea, as Perry admitted in the last debate. HPV is not something that, travels through the air and anyone can get it just walking down the street. It's not a public health emergency. First, you have to have premarital sex. Then you have to decide not to treat it. If you get it from premarital sex, it's a rather rare condition, and all vaccines carry some risk. It would be like having your appendix taken out, undergoing surgery just to avoid the possibility of appendicitis. But, okay, move that aside. Perry did say it was a mistake. What it shows is exactly what Perry has to run from, and that's looking like George Bush and the worst aspects of George Bush, surrounding himself with incompetent nincompoops like this advisor who used to work for him, goes to work for Merck, and then in the service to his subsequent employer pushes this idiotic idea on Perry. I mean, this just brings up images of Alberto Gonzalez and Harriet Miers. Who is this guy?